Golden Dragon statue, GettyGetty China clearly is the underdog in this latest round of trade talks in Washington. It was always at a disadvantage in this dispute. After all, its trade with the United States is much more important to it than Chinese trade is to this country. 1/4 of China's exports come here, while less than 10% of U.S. exports go there. But more than just these disadvantages, the dispute comes at an especially bad time for China's economy. Beijing's difficult position is clearly evident in the nature of the negotiations to date. It has proposed all the concessions, while the Americans have offered as a respite from the tariffs. Outcomes are never certain, not the least because China's leadership has so much prestige at stake, but the circumstances and the drift of news suggest this will end soon with China conceding the most. Beijing has every reason to seek relief from economic pressures. Even official figures concede a growth slowdown. To be sure, the extent of deceleration looks small. Forecasted real growth for 2019 equals 6.4% compared with 6.8% last year. But economists and business people have always suspected the official figures, especially these overall figures, as more propaganda than information. Beneath the still relatively bright government numbers, lies a much darker economic picture. Recent data on exports shows a 4.4% drop in December, the most recent period available. Imports also fell some 7.6%, indicating less domestic buying but also the fact that China imports so many of the components for its exports. Total capital investment in the final quarter of 2018 ran some 13% below year-ago levels. Auto sales have also declined by half in some regions. While official statistics show a robust jobs market with unemployment hovering around 4.9% of the workforce, help-wanted advertising seems to have dropped off considerably. Advertised technology jobs fell 20% during last year's final quarter after falling 51% during the third quarter. Meanwhile, the profits of Chinese enterprises, both private and state-owned, have declined each month since April last year. Industrial firms ended the whole year 2018 with profits down some 2.0%, quite a disappointing outcome after the robust start to the year. Much of this economic trouble reflects the U.S. tariffs. Exporters have stepped out from under them by moving operations outside China to other locations in Asia. But China's economic troubles are not all about the trade war. The export departure in part also reflects a search for lower wages. Lower cost opportunities in Vietnam and Indonesia, Cambodia and elsewhere in Southeast Asia are effectively doing to China what its cheap labor once did to the West. Some of this commercial and industrial migration, perhaps most of it, would have happened even in the absence of the White House's tariff pressures. China is, in fact, experiencing a natural and well-known development pattern in which economies, when they first emerge, have huge wage advantages and a wide array of untapped opportunities. For years, these advantages spurred phenomenal growth in China. But in this familiar pattern, further advances slow as wages rise and the economy taps those easy opportunities. Long before Trump imposed his tariffs, Beijing fought such natural developments with programs that have resulted in a massive debt overhang that now presents yet another stumbling block to Chinese growth. Recognizing China's disadvantages and Beijing's consequent needs, U.S. negotiators have begun to target more difficult areas of dispute. Whereas in the past, talks centered around reducing the huge trade surplus China has with the United States, the current round of negotiations focus on China's industrial policies, its insistence that foreign firms entering China have a Chinese partner and that they share technology. U.S. negotiators also seek to gain assurances on intellectual property theft as well as cybersecurity. The move against the Chinese telecom giant, Huawei, in both the United States and Canada is hardly coincidental. China has given assurances on those points in the past and failed to live up to them. It has done so again in this most recent exchange. Today, American negotiators see themselves in a position to demand a more secure commitment from Beijing than previously. Right now, the talks do not yet include high-level people. That is standard. The way of such negotiations is to hammer out a deal or something close to one, and only then do the presidents and premiers enter the picture. When the news on this front includes Trump and Xi, it is fair to say that something is done or very near done. But uncertainties would remain even at that point. Trump is ever unpredictable, and Xi's pose as a global power might preclude the kinds of concessions needed to seal a deal. Even if the sides reach agreement and the two countries avoid a trade war, which is likely given China's needs and White House preferences, there can be little doubt that the United States will reserve the right to reintroduce tariffs should China backslide, as it has in the past, on the points of intellectual property and cybersecurity.